that are read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a top therapist using EMDR, CBT, hypnotherapy, and yoga for trauma recovery. And of course, best-selling author too, and university professor. And the name of the book, Finding Your Wellness, no other than Dr. Cindy Saj.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. It's my honor to be here and talk a little bit about myself and my book today.
Welcome to Book 101, Dr. Cindy. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I forgot to tell to the world?
Yeah, no, I think you did awesome. Thank you for letting the world know a little bit about myself. I am a clinical therapist. I do work with one-on-one clients. Sessions do look like a lot of different things. You mentioned a couple of my theoretical orientations or my modalities. I offer cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT, EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and, with that being said, the book that I did produce called Finding Your Wellness does incorporate a lot of the way that I work with my clients into a book. So not everyone has, the benefits to use to pay for counseling services. And part of my journey throughout my career of learning is to share that knowledge. So the book is really kind of a part of me that I can leave with the world if they can't pay for counseling. Within this book, there's a lot of the theories that I use, a lot of the approaches that I work with clients on, and a lot of the kind of the tips and secrets to finding your wellness.
Finding your wellness indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. Dr. Cindy, finding your wellness. What are your struggles in writing this book?
Yeah, and so this is actually the second book. So I am really proud to say that I've written two. So the first one is called Finding Your Purpose. Within that journey of working with people to find their purpose, part of that journey is really wellness. You need to kind of come from a good place of liking yourself, being, aware of who you are. And then kind of really taking care of your body, mind, soul, and whatever else is kind of around you in order to really find your purpose and live a meaningful life. So, within writing the first book, the chapter on self care really became its own book. And so this is kind of, the second half of my book experience is really taking the time to unpack all the important tips and strategies and ways that we could find healing and wellness. So the book is really, 187 pages of strategies, techniques, like life hacks, and just ways that I've been able to organize strategies for my clients to find wellness. It does, make a better life. It makes a better human. It makes people enjoy their life more when they feel well, when they feel good, and when they're able to kind of come from a place of energy, come from a place of optimism, come from a place of feeling good in our bodies and also feeling good about our bodies. So this really is that journey, and it helps people who read it find that journey. And then at the end, the goal of the book is really to help people find that wellness.
Dr. Cindy, why do you believe self care is essential, not optional in today's world?
Yeah, and so self-care, no one's going to do the work for you. No one's going to take care of you for you, besides yourself. And we often kind of think in our society that we need to consistently be on the go in order to be productive or be valuable. The opposite is true. We actually need to recharge our batteries. We need to kind of settle down. We need to rest and we need to recover, repair, recharge in order to be the best version of ourselves. If we kind of run throughout the week on 4 hours of sleep, that's going to leave you at the end of the week pretty grumpy, pretty frustrated, pretty tired, pretty irritable, which also doesn't make for a good human being. Sometimes people think we can kind of push through the week. Maybe, having the 4 hours of sleep makes us have 20 hours of productivity. But in those 20 hours of productivity, is it your best work? Is it really how you want to show up in the world? And many of the times, the answer is no. People often think that over the weekend, hey, I can catch up on my sleep. I'll sleep, a good 12 hours and it will balance out the budget or it will balance out that sleep debt. It does not work that way. And so unfortunately, all the drama or the hurt or the kind of chaos you may have caused throughout your week of the 20 hours of being awake for the 4 hours of sleep, you're then kind of like on damage control when you're kind of trying to repair, the people that you snapped at or the bad decisions you made or whatnot, right? So sleep really is essential for us to perform at our peak abilities.
Indeed. So, what are the some of the biggest misconceptions people have about self care?
Yeah, as people think that self care needs to be this big, elaborate kind of ritual. Self care can be anything from taking a nice big breath in through your nose, long breath out through your mouth. That could be self care, is just taking a breath instead of kind of moving on, taking a moment of pause. That's self care. Self care can be going outside, getting some fresh air. Self care can be getting outside and feeling the sun on your face if you live, and work in an office with not a lot of windows. Self care can be, slowing down and chewing and tasting your food. Self care can be going for a shower, right? Like these are all things that people think it needs to be elaborate. And we also think we need to deserve self care. People think that they need to push through in order to take a break, or they need to kind of, do something to kind of earn self care. It's the opposite. We need to actually rest in order to do anything. If you think about our life or our body as having this body battery, thinking about a cell phone, if you don't plug in a cell phone, it's going to crash, it's going to die. Same with a human being. Yes, we're flesh and bones, and yes, we have a lot of energy sometimes, but if we don't feed ourselves, if we don't sleep enough, our bodies will crash. And so it's really important to kind of plug in, really important to recharge, and that doesn't only come from running on empty.
How is the book different from other wellness or self help guides?
Yeah, and the book really is like a passion project for me in the sense that I've been in school for many years. My journey throughout my schooling is to find strategies to help people live their best life. So this book really does incorporate all the tools that I've learned over my career in schooling. It's also, compiled of my life experiences, the times that I've flopped or the times that I failed, and how I've recovered. Within our society, it's not so much like if you burn out, it's when you burn out. And I've had the experience of burning out. So this idea of it really comes from my academic pursuits. It comes from my personal pursuits and stories, and it also uses evidence-based research. So as you mentioned earlier on, I am trained in many different modalities to help people find healing. This book takes the best of all those different theories and provides them in an easy to understand, common language, understanding and explanation for all these big kind of cool things that are out there to help us heal. It talks a little bit about why the breath actually helps us relax. It talks a little bit about why, movement is medicine. It talks a little bit about grounding. We're hearing a lot of people walking bare feet on the grass. Like, well, what's behind that? Why are people doing it? So it presents people with all these tools for wellness and self-care and ways to kind of recover. And then it gives you the why. It gives you like, why is this important, or why should you do it? So it really is this kind of like guidebook, because you can pick and choose what's going to work for you. Not everyone wants to, walk around in the grass with their bare feet. Not everyone wants to take a cold plunge. Not everyone wants to, go to therapy. And not everyone wants to, take some breaths. Like there's many different things that people can do. And this gives a bunch of options as well as the why behind it.
What are the some foundational self care practices you recommend for beginners?
Yeah, and that's a great one. I can kind of pick out five, and the first one I will say is smiling. Smiling is so underused, and smiling is actually good not only for the person smiling, but for everyone around them. And so if you think about when you enter a room and the energy in that room, it can kind of wear off on us. And so if we're around people who aren't smiling and really being very negative, that will rub off on us. And the same goes for the opposite. If you walk in a room, someone's smiling and laughing, and the vibe is different, you'll resonate with that. That will change your mood. And so if you're able to kind of put on a smile, whether it's an authentic smile or not, eventually it becomes authentic. We talk about like laughter yoga, or just like even laughter in general. You might start and it might feel awkward. It might not be kind of what you're feeling, but eventually it's just funny to feel happy. And it just, laughing does make us laugh. And so smiling is a great way to increase your face value. It's a great way to make connections, to form, meaningful connections with others by smiling at them, and just kind of adding that vibe to the world. And then also there's a little bit of science behind smiling. When you smile, you're actually activating muscles in your body that trigger your brain to feel happiness. So you could actually feel happiness just by smiling, which is a kind of a neat connection. So the first one I'd say is a life hack to finding wellness is smiling. The second one is to drink water. And people are like, what? Drink water? Water is great to ground you. So if you're ever overwhelmed or you're having racing thoughts or you're having anxiety or just any kind of panic, water is a great reminder of, hey, I could feel this liquid, go down my throat. I'm in this moment. This moment right now is where I am. I'm safe, I'm secure, I'm connected, etc. So water kind of triggers us to be in the moment. Water is actually awesome for your health and wellness. So water can kind of help move out any illnesses. It can help with digestion. It can actually help alleviate illnesses and disease. Water is pretty phenomenal. So smile, drink more water. The second one or third one, sorry, is find movement. Movement is also medicine. The idea of our bodies are meant to move. When you sit for 9-10 hours a day, that doesn't feel good. Our bodies need to move in order for us to actually feel good and to get energy back. People often talk about, oh, I don't have the energy to get up and go for a walk. When you get up and go for a walk, even if you do not have the energy, it gives you energy. You actually get energy from this movement. So it's kind of like you're winding yourself up to actually have energy just by doing some movement. So it's my top three. Do you want me to keep going with two more?
Yes, go ahead. Continue,
Okay.
doctor.
Perfect. So then the fourth one would be get good sleep. And sleep does not mean you need to do 9 hours of sleep per night. People vary with what they need. Sometimes 6 hours of sleep is appropriate. Sometimes 7 hours is appropriate. Sometimes 8 hours is appropriate. Base your sleep on what you need. With that being said, some people who are growing up, like adolescents and children and babies, they obviously need more sleep than adults do. But if you're a grown adult, you definitely do not need 12 hours sleep. You probably don't even need 9 hours sleep. And if you're sleeping more than 9 hours and you're a grown adult, go see your doctor because you definitely don't want to miss any kind of illnesses that might be there. So, 9 hours and under, play around with it. Try one night with 7 hours to see how you feel the next day. People oversleep all the time, and that actually leads to feeling more tired. So, find your ingredients and what you need for your best sleep. And with that being said, I mean, I can keep going, but I'm going to do one more big important one. And that's
Go
the
ahead.
idea of turn off your technology, put your phone down.
Yes.
We are so caught up in scrolling and mindless shopping and looking at the news and then being afraid of the news and then being sucked into the news. And then, our emotions are all about the news lately or all about what's happening on social media. Put the phone down. That's going to significantly improve your mental health. And I'm going to sneak in one more because this is probably my most important and favorite one is practice gratitude. Wake up,
Yes.
think about what you're grateful for. The fact that you woke up, you could open your eyes, the fact that you have two legs and you could walk, the fact that you could breathe, the fact like all these things we take it for granted. It's only when we can't, get up and walk or we can't, breathe fresh air or we can't, et cetera, et cetera. We need to appreciate what we have. And gratitude is the antidote for depression. Thinking about gratitude, what you're grateful for, will change you from feeling, hey, I have less than or I don't have enough to being like, wait a minute, I have an abundance of things that are good in my life. So practice gratitude. And then I will stop my list there. So that's six things that really will help with your wellness.
It's really good, Dr. Cindy. And count your blessings, people, and stop complaining. And very well said, Dr. Cindy. Beautifully articulated. And how does emotional wellness tie into physical and mental health in your approach?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So, when you think back to the times that you've been depressed, and that's the thing about life is that we all have our ups and downs, and I'm sure everyone could relate to feeling depressed at some point in their life. If we're depressed, we often want to like isolate. We want to kind of curl up in bed. We want to close a window. We want to turn the TV on. So we do all these things that make us maybe feel comfortable and safe and whatnot, right? We don't really feel better, but we don't really feel worse, and we kind of like isolate ourselves. And then with that, your emotional health is, hey, I'm alone, or, no one cares, or hey, it's never going to get better. And it's really kind of this idea that we kind of put ourselves into this like keep digging that hole around, hey, life sucks. And when you give your brain the task to find all the things that suck in life, your brain's going to take that task and run with it. Our brains are very much kind of our computers. If we ask them to think about all the times that we've ever failed in life or all the times that we didn't do something right, it'll be like, okay, mission on, and it will give you all the times that you didn't do something well. It's then tough to switch that to, hey, remind me of how awesome I am. But that's actually what we need to do. We need to kind of stop ourselves from digging that hole of just kind of negative, to then say, hey, how can I look to see, changing the situation? Go open the window, go get off the bed, go for a walk, get outside, get fresh air, think about the people that you're grateful for, right? This idea of we have so much control over our brain, we forget that. We think that our thoughts kind of dictate our reality. Our thoughts, do dictate our reality, but we have control over those thoughts. We have control over, hey, if we want to see that silver lining, or if we want to see, the worst part of the day. We often talk about this idea of glass empty, or glass half full. That is a choice. You can choose to see whichever you decide to look at. Our lives are really based on, then asking the question, is this a fact or is this a feeling? When we base our life off feelings, we get really kind of misled. Feelings are these big emotional bursts that happen in our brain, that or chemical bursts that happen in our brain that last about 6 to 8 seconds. So when we make big life choices based on feelings, we often get misled. So really kind of going back to this emotional wellness and health and how they're all integrated, is that always kind of check in on what's going on and where it's coming from. Sometimes when I'm feeling really harsh on myself, I'll step back and be like, okay, what's going on? Have I slept enough? Or hey, what's going on? Am I hangry? Because I often get hangry. Then I have to go eat something, and I eat something and I feel fine, right? Or this idea of, am I tired? Is it because I've been running too much and I haven't taken a rest or whatnot, right? So our emotions really do dictate how we move along in the world. And if we stop and reflect on what we're actually thinking, that will then give us a lot of understanding on how we feel, and vice
What
versa.
role, yes, Dr. Cindy, what role does mindfulness play in finding and maintaining wellness?
So mindfulness is kind of a funny word, because when we say the word mindful, you think of like having a full mind. It's actually the opposite. When we're mindful is actually when we're grounded, when we're aware of our thoughts, when we're present in the moment, and when we're able to kind of, look at that self-reflection. Mindfulness really is acknowledging the thoughts as they come, as they go, and kind of just really being present in the moment. Knowing that in the present moment right now, like, I feel safe, I feel pretty, confident in my day. I feel pretty good about, the choices that I made up until this moment, right? So in this moment is all that matters. When I try to think about the next, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the next year, it's going to look different, right? There's going to be a lot of things coming up that I might get nervous about, or I might, dread, or I might worry about. Or if I evaluate back last week, or when I, said that really dumb thing, or when I did that dumb thing, or whatever, right? We're kind of moving away from the here and now to the past, or the future, which we have no control over. So all we can control is a moment, and that's where mindfulness is really this amazing practice. It reminds us to be in the present. This idea that we are here alive in this moment. If you can kind of look around your room, if you can kind of like, pinch your fingers, acknowledge that you're here right now in this moment, and that's all you have control over. That's a really great place to be.
Yes, indeed. You are here right now, people, and live at the moment. And can you describe a pivotal moment in your own self care journey that changed your outlook?
Yeah, I definitely have burnt myself out many times in my life, and it took me many different times to understand it. And one of the big times that I actually just recently reflected on is like illness. I'm someone who does do a lot of things all the time, and I have to keep reminding myself to rest, right? Because it is a daily practice. Like, you actually need to set the bedtime, go to bed, wake up. Like, that is a process of actually being responsible enough to get good sleep for yourself. I was, once again thinking that I could push the envelope a little bit and getting less sleep every day. And eventually I was down to not a very good sleep schedule. And then I got sick. And when you get sick, all you can do is sleep because you need to get rid of it. And so literally this shift went from me not getting enough sleep per night to then me having to stay home to sleep literally like 20 hours a day to try to get myself back in healthy routine. With this idea of feeling so helpless, all I could do was sleep. I couldn't talk. All I was doing was coughing. I had no energy. That was a nice, humbling experience where, we think we can be superheroes. We think we can just keep going. We give ourselves that pressure, but life will give us these curveballs. They often say if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll have to make time for your illness, which is what happened to me. And so it's kind of this idea that, to be really mindful, to take the things that matter, and then to actually do the practice, because it will come back and it will make you rest. just as a kind of note there. And also, with this being said, is it comes out in different ways. And so, wellness is not just, this physical feeling. Wellness can be many different things, as you mentioned earlier, emotional. If you're showing up to a job that you don't love to do, that's going to be emotionally exhausting over time. And that's going to be where you need to make a shift, right? Same goes for if you're in a relationship that you're not really 100% invested in, or that's not giving you back what you need. Eventually you're going to get depleted. It's going to be, burnout. So burnout can happen in your job, in your life, in your like relationships, many different ways. And so just to kind of keep mindful of that, because I've definitely learned the hard way in every pillar of wellness. I've definitely burned out at work. I've burned out in personal relationships. I burned out with my own health at some point. So it really did take me all those times to learn to then to speak about it.
Dr. Cindy, as a therapist and an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, I definitely love what I do. I absolutely love helping people through kind of moments in life where they don't feel like they can get through them. EMDR has been a really fantastic strategy that I've been and working with in a healing modality where it really is a person doing all the work. And so, talk therapy is one approach, and that, sometimes it's exhausting for the client as well as the therapist. EMDR is something that I just am loving doing. It doesn't take a lot from my end because it is a client doing all the work. And it's really great to see the results that come from that. So I would love to keep my private practice, keep doing counseling sessions, also publish a bit more. I mean, the more I practice and the more I learn from life, the more I want to share that journey with others. And so I definitely will be continuing to publish. I am doing some research study right now through Yorkville University around integrating EMDR, positive psychology, yoga, and even like clinical hypnotherapy. So I'm kind of integrating different cool things that I've noticed are really helpful to my clients and to myself, and to kind of offer that to the world. So definitely publishing still and practicing still. And I do like to take vacations and breaks. So with that being said, I have an upcoming trip to India, which I'm very excited about. So I have a yoga trip planned in September. So looking forward to that.
Yes, good luck to your goals and looking for more success for you, Dr. Cindy. And what advice do you give to those who feel guilty about prioritizing their own well being?
Yeah, and that's a good one. People often think that like self-care is selfish. The hugest myth, like in the sense that not doing self-care is selfish, right? This idea that if you're going to burn yourself out, your loved ones are going to not get the best of you. Your friends are not going to get the best of you. If you keep pushing yourself to you becoming tired, crabby, irritated, not really taking care of who you are, not shining your best self, you're then robbing everyone who loves you from the best version of yourself. You're not showing up the best to work. You're not showing up the best to your clients or your friends or your family. And that's kind of, something that is selfish if you're kind of sacrificing your relationships for your growth.
Indeed. Thank you for your advice, Dr. Cindy. Do you incorporate journaling, affirmation, or other effective practices in the book?
Yeah, I absolutely think that to journal is huge. The idea of having a safe place to unpack thoughts and feelings. If we don't get them out, they just kind of like keep cycling. So whether you journal to get out your thoughts and feelings, whether you use talk therapy, whether you do EMDR, whether you have a trusted person to kind of release things to. Peter Levine talked about like shaking out energy with this idea of literally shaking our bodies to shake it out. So whether you're writing it out, whether you're shaking it out, whether you're moving it out, moving out your emotions is important. I do practice gratitude every morning. I wake up and I find those three things that I'm grateful for. Sometimes with the same thing, sometimes I switch them up. And then at bedtime, I think about the three things that I'm grateful for. And that really is a practice that if you do that day to day, it will help reduce depression. Like evidence based, it's been proven, it's a fact that if you think about gratitude, you will reduce depression. If you journal, it will also help you self reflect and be self aware. Those are all things that we know they're good to do. Do we do them? Not always, but this idea of trying.
Indeed, being grateful is the key, people. And before we wrap up our discussion today, Miss Cindy, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in the fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season, comedy 101 in second season, and Food 101 and fifth season as well. Geography 101 and Love Letters in third season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Sex 101 and Science 101 in its first season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Cindy, what's one message you want readers to remember after finishing Finding Your Wellness?
I think the big one is that you are good enough and you are worth it. People, like you were saying, think it's selfish or think that they don't deserve to take the time for themselves. You are worth it. Guarantee whether it's your animal would agree with me, whether it's your loved one would agree with me, you are worth it and you're worth taking the time to find your wellness. So please, read the book. Please incorporate some of my suggestions today in the sense that everything that I've said is meant to help. So please take one thing away, leave the rest, but this idea of also sharing it. So anything that you do find that works, please share it with others. We can make the world a better place.
Yes. Yes, people, have a break. Have a Kit Kat. Oh, amazing. I hope Kit Kat will give sponsor my podcast. So, Dr. Cindy Saj, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And we are looking for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for having me. And please reach out if you have any questions. My email is, or sorry, my website is cindysaj.com.
Yes, people. So, where are you gonna find your books, Dr. Cindy?
Yeah, they're on Amazon. So if you just look up the last name Saj, S-A-J, they pop up on Amazon. They're on Barnes and Noble, Indigo. Any really local bookstore should have them. And you could always request them at your library, which is a nice way to get them for free if you want to access the material at your library.
Yes, people are support Dr. Cindy Saj because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Dr. Cindy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
More to come, people. See you soon.